might be a compulsive shopper.
Exactly.
Let's go through those, and
Sure.
we've got them starting with number one. I feel a lack of control over my spending habits.
Exactly. If you feel you're doing it as an urge and something that you have to do, and it's not something that you can control, it's really a desire and a strong compulsion, then you have a problem.
I feel guilty when I shop. I have to admit, this is something I have. I've identified with a couple of these. I'm not sure if I'm compulsive or not. Maybe you can identify,
Right.
but
well, feeling guilty is a big issue because you're spending money perhaps that you don't have, and you're not telling a lot of people that you're doing this. And so it's a hidden guilt, and you're buying things that maybe you don't need. And so you're storing it all up inside. Remember, these compulsions, there's a lot of psychological issues attached to it. And so it's a big, big issue for a lot of shoppers.
And you mentioned there not telling people. That's number three. Yes. I don't know, or I don't want to admit to other people how much I watch.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the biggest signs, the fact that you're hiding things. And it could even be from your spouse or your children or your parents. And so you're buying things, hiding them in a closet, and not telling people how much you're spending, burning bills, a lot of things like that. So it's a big problem.
And that's one of the things you and I talked about, is that this is not just something to take lightly. It can cause real emotional, personal problems, of course, and financial problems as well.
Absolutely, yes. And they found about 10% of people actually have this compulsion.
Wow.
Typically it's women, but it could be men as well, and it cuts across all demographics. So, you know, in all income groups. So you may think it's just people who have a lot of money, not the case. People who don't have money, not the case. It's across the board. It could be anyone.
Number four, I tend to hide purchases and shopping expeditions from loved ones.
Yeah, once again, you're buying things, and because you're ashamed of it, because you're doing something that you know isn't probably right, you're spending too much, you're doing things that aren't logical, then as a result, you're trying to mask your behaviors.
This is one I identify with. Shopping is one of my favorite ways to relieve tension.
Yeah, and we can probably all relate to that. And it is a fun thing. And if it's an enjoyable thing, that's good. But when you start getting into the guilt, you start getting into the issues of not telling people and buying beyond your means and buying large quantities of items too, and stocking things up. And you know, and sometimes it looks like a hobby that you have, but it could also be a compulsion as well.
Number six, I often care more about the act of buying than actually what I buy.
Yeah, and that's also getting into the compulsion obsession with the shopping itself. And what we found is people who have this problem tend to have a lot of issues as far as their self-worth. And so they tend to value themselves and other people by materialistic goods. They feel if I have a lot of things, if I look pretty, if I wear beautiful clothes, people will notice me, and as a result, I'll be more important. And so if you have those types of issues, then, and you're buying to buy for status types of things, that's when the problems come in.
I moved here from Dallas recently, and it is very materialistic. Shopping everywhere, great stores, and you can see how people get wrapped up in it too.
And as you said earlier in the segment, people consider this shop till you drop, shopaholics. We make fun of it, we make light of it. It's not an issue that tends to be taken seriously, like alcoholism or smoking or drug addiction. But it is a problem. It's an obsessive compulsive behavior.
And they're all related. You're often the same personality type.
Absolutely. And what tends to happen is if you shop a lot, chances are you may drink a lot or eat a lot or be bulimic. So a lot of these compulsive behaviors